Greetings and welcome to another episode of Association Matters, the official PCAAE podcast for conversation on governance, leadership, and impact in the association sector. We believe that when associations thrive, societies rise. So we are your host. I am Bobby.
And I'm Emily. And for the topic of today's podcast, it's community first. Why great events start long before opening day. While every association and organization hosts events, the most successful ones recognize that great event marketing is more than the last minute ticket push. It's about building that long-term engagement. And the truth is, the secret is to a packed room is that great events actually start long before that opening day in a community first mindset.
So joining us from EventsAir is the head of marketing, Charlotte Cailleaux, who will share her energetic global insights on how to transform your event planning process to help your associations thrive.
At EventsAir, Charlotte leads global marketing and growth strategies for the company. With over a decade of experience in B2B and event technology, Charlotte is passionate about helping event professionals create seamless experiences powered by data and innovation. Having lived in France, China, and Australia, she brings a multicultural perspective and collaborative approach that inspires creativity and connection across global teams.
Oh, hi, Charlotte, and welcome to Association Matters. We're really delighted to have you with us. So let's start our conversation.
Hi, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. When people think about successful conference, they often focus on what happens during the event itself, right? But from your perspective, why does attendee experience actually begin long before opening day? And what should associations be doing differently to build excitement and engagement in the lead up?
The way I like to think about an event is very much about a lot of other things, we have in life. I think you've got the event there, but it's about the anticipation before the event. So really, how do you drive that excitement? How do you drive that willingness for people to register and to attend your event? And just even once they are registered, how do you get them excited in the lead up to the event? And I've actually stole a very nice analogy from our partnership manager earlier this week, who was telling me, it seems a little bit like Christmas, like ahead of Christmas, you're very excited about the Christmas day and all of that. But in the end, it's also everything that comes before Christmas, the Christmas lights, everything you see in the shops, the Christmas songs, that's all of this that's kind of getting us excited about the event itself that's going to happen on Christmas Day. So I think a very good way for association to think about their event in the lead up to the event itself is to ask, how do I want people to feel about my event before, but also after the event? What is that feeling that I want them to live with? And based on that, walk, backward from there and think about, how do I get them to start feeling this way before the event even starts? And I think that there's a lot of associations can do in that space, which, coming back to the topic of this podcast specifically, it's not just about sending out a registration email to all your members and just hoping for the best. It's very much about how do you create that sense of community throughout the year so that your members have that engagement with you. And the minute you're going to start releasing those registration and you're going to start organizing those events, they just are excited and looking forward to joining the event because we already have that sense of community. So for me, from what I could see, from what I can see from our customers and other associations that I engage with on a regular basis, the ones that are very successful at their event is very much the one that are able to drive that sense of community ahead of time and create that community within their member base. I think that's where it starts.
Can you give example on how you create that community to the lead up of the event? Is that like some app that you put up or some community chat box?
There's
Whatever.
a lot of different ways you can do it. And I think there's no like one size fits all. The most important thing for associations is very much to understand who are your members, and it's not just about a job title or just like the industry. It's really like trying to understand where do they hang out? How do they like to engage with each other? What type of platforms are they most present into? And I think a good example that I can give here is I'm personally a member of an association as well, myself, a B2B marketing association here in Australia. And they launched their association back in 2022. So it's driven by 4 members, I think like every other association, there's not a lot of staff involved. It's community driven as well. But those 4 marketers started this and they were just trying to get their community, a community of marketers to come together. And they were like, oh, how do we kick off that conversation? How do we start building that community? And they tried a few different things. They went to Facebook first. Didn't work. And then they tried to create a LinkedIn group, didn't work. And ultimately, it's only when we started to create a Slack channel that it started to work. So they just didn't know, and I think you don't know what you don't know until you try different formulas and that you try different channels as well. And sometimes it's about starting somewhere. So, it's just about getting it right just the first time around, but there's a lot of different ways that you can create that community, and it's finding that channel where your members like to engage, where, they're going to start, interacting with each other and engaging with each other. And I also think that associations, for this community to be successful, it needs to be driven, I would say, from the association themselves. Because if you just open a portal and just hope for the best from your members, sometimes it's not going to work. It's important for the association, which can be challenging. I know, there are very resource constraints at times and there's not a lot, but it's important to give love to that community that you create, to kind of start the engagement, create discussion, make sure that if one of your members start engaging and ask a question, that question is not being left unanswered. That's the most important, because the minute we see that people are reacting, that you are engaging, even if you are the one kicking this off before other members, it's just about starting that conversation. And generally, naturally, other people start to be engaged and start to grow the community themselves. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that in a all year long basis. I would say that as you get closer to your event itself, you get your registrants and all of, everyone is there. And a good way, if you manage to get that community platform in place, would be to ask questions about the event in there, for example, tease about your event, introduce your speakers, get your speakers to engage with your community ahead of time, just asking questions and trying to get feedback from those members on the session that they're going to present, and whether the topic is relevant to them, so that they can also feel like they are contributing to the event and that they have a word into shaping what the event's going to look like, what the topic are going to look like as well. So I think all of that works very nicely, and generally that's also reinforcing that sense of community.
I think you've answered this next question already, and they've done so beautifully, but I'm just going to ask if you have any other examples. So, you've worked with associations big and small. Do you have any other examples of associations who really got this right, and then what that looked like as a result and the impact for the delegates?
I think some of the examples I took here, so I definitely use that example of an association that I'm a member of, but our customer, they organize a mid-size conference every year, in-person conference, and same thing, they never really focused on that community building ahead of the event. So generally what used to happen from their feedback was we were getting people through the door on day one, registering, but because no one really knew each other, it was really taking a lot of time for them to warm up and for the overall ambience, I would say, to kind of build from there, and the excitement and the engagement. And it's almost like when you have a conference that's over 2 days or 3 days, and that you're almost losing a day where people are not that engaged because they're a bit shy, they just don't dare to engage with each other, and it's hard to facilitate networking. It's such a missed opportunity. You work so hard to create that event, and you really want to have your members engaged from day one. So what we did the following year was creating a community platform that worked for their members, where they just were able to get those, all the attendees to engage with each other ahead of time. And they did use that opportunity to get their speakers to engage as well in there, to collect feedback on the session that was coming up, which I think worked very nicely. And what they did also, they started to get polls in that community forum so that they could get feedback on the agenda outside of just the speakers, but around networking functions and other opportunities at the event. And so that attendees felt like they had a word and they were helping to shape what the event was going to look like on the day. And I think that indirectly, that's also a way to create connections, between those attendees, because once we start engaging with each other and providing feedback all together, that's once again like nurturing that community. And what they saw based on that, so they opened that community platform about 3 months ahead of time. And on the event day, what happened is that people actually, a lot of those members, attendees, knew each other just because they interacted on the platform. So even if they didn't met before, they had the opportunity to just meet in person, and they were a lot more excited because they had things that they could discuss because they had that previous engagement as well. And same with the speakers, like they didn't feel like strangers on a stage, they felt a lot more involved in those presentations and a lot more excited for the speakers as well because of all of that. So I think that worked very nicely here.
One thing I do notice, I think it was done last year for the EventsAir conference, is that there was this whole thing on LinkedIn about who's going to be the keynote speaker, and this anticipation was built up. Who's it going to be? And the clues were dropped, and everyone was guessing. It was really memorable for me. And then the keynote speaker was revealed 2 weeks later, and I remember being at the conference, and then somebody saying to me, "Who did you think it was?" And it was a great conversation starter. So I can really see how those little things you can do beforehand can really build connections with anybody during the event and before it. It's really good way to engage everybody.
It does, yeah, for sure. That's always one that works very well every year for us. The keynote.
Yes. So it's really getting to know your speaker, the other co-attendees before time, and then when you actually meet in person, that's absolutely great meetup. So thanks for that insight, Charlotte. So our third and final question is looking ahead. So how do you see a relationship between events, community, and the technology evolving? And what opportunities should association leaders be thinking about now? How to create stronger, more connected event experiences over the next few years, say?
That's a very good question. I think there's obviously a lot of talk about AI, right? At the moment, we can't avoid it. And AI allows us to do very beautiful things in a lot of different aspects. But I also think that if anything, that can be an opportunity for associations and event planners as a whole, because in a world that is flooded by AI, where, everyone is stuck in front of their computers and talk to machines all day, I do believe that people thrive for in-person connections, that they are very much looking for this, and that events have a huge opportunity in that sense to keep growing. And I really think that it's never been a better time to be able to deliver more events for your members, to get that human connection, that human interaction in person, because we need that. We're just so focused on being stuck in front of our laptops that we need that in-person connection for sure. And the way that technology can support that. So I was saying, initially AI is also beautiful, and it is a lot of opportunity. And I think the way that all of, that technology can help bridge the gap here is it can allow more targeted and personalized connection as well between members and between attendees ahead of the event. So an example, I talked about creating a community platform, but also a very good way to facilitate that is also event apps. There's a lot of events that use apps ahead of the events, and releasing an event app, I would say a few weeks before. So not necessarily just a week before, but just make sure you release it 2-3 weeks before the event as well, because that's another platform where all your attendees can engage ahead of time. And there's now a lot of opportunities. For us at EventsAir, we have a new attendee assistant in our event app, which allows attendees to be able to engage with that kind of live chatbot that's going to make other recommendations of like connections for them. So other people that they can connect with based on their interests, based on their, the different things that they fit in their profile, so that they know which attendees are going to be more, let's say, like-minded individual for them to connect with. And similarly with like sponsors, with exhibitors, like very much be doing that smart connection and smart analysis. But also when it comes to your content, like you can now be, I'm Charlotte, I'm the head of marketing at EventsAir. I'm very passionate about, growth, data. I'm going to that conference. Can you recommend me, like, out of all the sessions that are at the conference, there's 3 different streams happening at the same time. What are the sessions I should not miss? And technology can help just surface the session for me, so I don't have to go through all of this, and I can then save that, which also allows to make sure that I'm going to have the most relevant experience tailored to my specific preferences and focus areas as well. So that works very nicely in that sense. And Emilia, I just wanted to go back on something that you touched on, the competition that we're doing for the keynote speakers.
Yes.
I think that an app, technology is also something that can help facilitate this kind of gamification ahead of the event. So similarly, we do a lot of gamification ahead of our user conference airtime. And the keynote speaker is one of them, which is quite disconnected to technology. But we also kick off gamification in the app as well. So we do give challenges to our customers before they come to the event, so that they have to engage with each other. They have to take on some of those challenges. One of them, which works always very nicely, it's very close to the event, but it does really work nicely, is send us a picture of you, at the airport traveling to airtime, and just like post your picture in the app. So you have a full library of pictures that start to grow within the app as well. And people are just excited to see each other, and they can see who's coming from which city. And that's a good conversation starter when they arrive at the event as well. So all those little things can also help boost, the engagement and the anticipation as you get closer and closer to your event date, I think.
100%. That's so exciting. I haven't used the app, but next time I will. Because that really, I can imagine it gets everybody involved, it gets everybody excited, and you caught a plane to get here, and maybe somebody drove or caught a train. It would 100% work. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte, for your insights. Unfortunately, I think we've lost Bobby he had some storms in Manila, so we'll keep going. But thank you so much for joining us today and for your insights. We wrap up each podcast with 3 key takeaways. I'm going to do my best to wrap up. I feel like there's so much in this podcast, so I'll see what I can grab. But number 1, I think, was that the real core message overall is that great events do start long before the opening day. One of the biggest takeaways for me was that the experience begins before. I loved that, let's ask ourselves, how do we want people to feel before the event? I love the Christmas analogy, the build-up of the music and the smells and the shops, and that is so true. It should be the same for an event. The most successful associations don't just send the agenda updates and logistics, they build that anticipation. They involve the attendees and really take them on the journey well in advance. So by the time people start showing up, they're already excited and a part of something more than just another conference. Number 2 is that the community is what transforms that event into an experience. So you gave some great examples of delegate opportunities to connect before the event and really create and change that atmosphere on day 1, whether it's speaker Q&As or attendee introductions or online community spaces. It really helps build member relationships before they even arrive, and that in turn builds better networking. It builds better engagement and more valuable experience for everyone involved. And number 3 there is that the future really belongs to associations who build those communities year round, not just events. So rather than just thinking about the 2 to 3 day event conference, it's engaging those communities. It's about also, I'm sure, staying connected. We didn't touch on it much, but staying connected post the event as well and keeping those communities rolling. Technology and AI, like you said, they're making it a lot more possible with smaller teams, especially around personalization and what streams and, what should my personal agenda look like in these events. But the real underlying goal is to create those meaningful relationships because we all want that human connection. And that's when the event then becomes a celebration, really, of an active community rather than just an engagement or a standard conference. Thank you so much for joining us today, Charlotte. We really appreciate you joining our podcast and for your insights. And thank you always to our audience for joining the Association Matters podcast, where governance, leadership, and impact come together. We believe that when associations thrive, societies rise. This podcast was brought to you today by the Philippines Council of Associations and Association Executives, Members AMS, and Pricing for Associations. Subscribe to our podcast and visit PCAAE website for updates and full episode notes. Until next time, thank you for joining us, Charlotte.
Thank you, Emily. Thanks for having me.